I need to re-enter the roll call there.
We do.
Okay. So we'll have a roll call. Jason.
Here.
Megan.
Here.
Jean.
Here.
Jen.
Here.
Mark. Here. Amy.
Here.
And present as well. And I'll just remind again that this meeting is being recorded. Okay, back to our agenda. We have our consent agenda, inclusive of approval of minutes, approval of warrants, approval of grants, donations, and awards. Inclusive of Tales of Jones River Village. This is the declaration of surplus involving a rolling computer desk and approval of field trips. Are there any items as part of the consent agenda that anybody wants to discuss in greater detail and separate from the consent agenda?
I would make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Do we have a second? Sorry.
Second.
Megan was the second. All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. With that, Liz, tell us about the nutrition services director.
Absolutely. Sarah, we have
The agenda that's, I'm sorry, the warrant that is going around tonight, that amount needs to be read into the minutes so we can put checks tomorrow.
Okay. Mark has that. Is that one part of our privilege report?
It is.
All right.
It is now.
Just the
Give it now,
numbers.
Sarah, or we just wait till the Oh, go ahead, Mark.
We have a total of 17 grants, 17 warrants, 18 warrants, I'm sorry. For a total of $1,228,044.27. The payroll total of $1.8 million, $1,895,540.15 for a grand total of $3,123,584.42.
Do we need a vote to accept that?
Vote to accept the warrants as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Liz, sorry, go ahead.
Great, thank you. I just wanted to present to the committee tonight for your support in considering keeping the nutrition service director funding in the revolving account of the funds that are open for cafeteria, as opposed to the operating budget.
I will make a motion that we continue to fund the nutrition services director position from the revolving account rather than the operating budget. Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Project lead the way.
Thank you. So this is going to be broken into a couple of chunks here. I asked for the capstone course to come in front of you just to help education everybody about what's going on with that. But it's the culmination of a lot of work and a lot of courses that happen here at our school. So I just wanted to put some context to that. The real meat and potatoes of it is the students over there. They will give a talk about their projects as well. Mr. Craig-Murray will talk a bit more specifically about the class. He's the instructor. But I take a look at this from the perspective of we're trying to do something very specific, a coherent pathway, K-12, really 7-12, right? And so at the middle school, we built out 3 Project Lead the Way classes, design and modeling, automation, robotics, and computer science for innovators and makers. The intention of that was to put together an on-ramp for kids coming into high school. And we had Project Lead the Way at the high school. We had 2 classes, but they were sort of like one-off types of things, individualized sort of experiences. They weren't really connected to anything. So building out a little bit of the middle school, we're allowing every 7th and 8th grader to be exposed to 3 Project Lead the Way classes. So whether you're interested in a STEM field or not, or you don't know, you're going to get some exposure to it. You're going to get some skills in collaboration, problem solving, computational thinking types of stuff. So with that said, once we got those built into place, we started working on our high school classes a little bit. Like I said, we had principles of engineering and civil engineering and architecture already built into the curriculum. But like I said, they weren't really connected to anything. So what we did is we brought in introductory to engineering design, which laid a foundational course at the high school. And I'll show you a visual. We built in our, and this is our little pathway I developed, a little sort of PR poster to help educate people about what we're doing here. So we have the introductory to engineering design class. It's sort of a freshman sophomore experience. Principles of engineering, which is like a look at all types of different types of engineering and technologies. Civil engineering and architecture, which obviously stands on its own. It's very much a civil engineering, commercial buildings and residential buildings. And then this is the sort of the ultimate class. This is what we Project Lead the Way calls capstone. It really is a capstone. It's the end experience for the students where they take all the learning in their previous courses and apply it. So the thinking is that if we can make an intentional pathway and then put something at the end of it where we're taking the kids and taking all their knowledge and skills and applying it somewhere. Although these are still very individualized, sort of authentic experiences, this is really authentic experiences. These classes come with sort of a curriculum. Capstone doesn't come with a curriculum. We can't tell the kids what to do. We ask them to figure out what they want to do. So once we got all this done, we brought in the capstone class. And again, it's taking a structured learning environment to a more authentic student-led environment. And so that was its big step forward. As the engineering pathway got settled, I realized that there's more Project Lead the Way classes out there. There's another opportunity to build this out. So what we did is we moved 2 of our science classes, anatomy and physiology and intro to biotechnology, over to Project Lead the Way. So now we have principles of biomedical science and human body systems as well. Same thing, we're looking at authentic student-driven experiences, working with real-world technologies, working with real-world problems, actually solving things that are real and relevant in the world today. And then those students, as they matriculate through this, will have an opportunity to take part in the capstone experience. And what this has done, and one of the reasons I thought this was a good year to do it, although last year we had a student who had gone through all 4 years of our engineering pathway. This year we have a group of students, I think 14 students in the class this year. We really felt like we were at a place where the pathway was known, where students understood what their experience was, where they knew where they were going with this. A lot of these students in the Project Lead the Way class are going off to be engineers or applied to be engineers in schools. And so this was a good time to sort of bring it to that point. I use the word Project Lead the Way. Some of you know about Project Lead the Way. Others may not know a lot about it. I don't use the term lightly, and I don't like to think it's just something we pulled off the shelf because we didn't have time to create a curriculum. It is a curriculum. More importantly, Project Lead the Way is a national organization that's supported by higher education and world industry leaders. John Deere, Toyota, ExxonMobil, Caterpillar. These are all individual organizations that work with Project Lead the Way to provide them with support, saying this is what students need. This is how we're going to grow good students to be good in college or good in a career. In addition to these global organizations for Project Lead the Way, we have a local organization, the 1A Foundation, which has invested over $100,000 in Silver Lake over the past 9 years to build out this program, give these students this experience. Their financial backing is important, their training and professional development is important, but what else is important is that they allow students opportunities to interact with mentors and professionals throughout the year. So we just took part in the Student Solve, in which about 60 of our students worked with industry mentors in real industries, solving actual problems that they presented to the kids. We're doing Student Industry Connects over the wintertime, where we'll take student projects. So a couple of my civil engineering students will present their houses to industry architects, and they'll get feedback. And then at the end of the year, we go to the track at New Balance, and at that place is the industry showcase. This is where some 300 or 400 industry professionals come and interact with students one-on-one or one on a group. And they, again, provide them feedback, critique their designs, give them a chance to present in a formal, very professional manner, as well as to talk about potential future endeavors, like places they can go, things they could do, maybe make a connection for an internship at some point in time. So Project Leap provides that, but it also provides some scholarships, college credit, as well as access to events and undertakings that other students don't get. So by being a part of this, the students are exposed to a lot more than just a curriculum. They're exposed to something that is really connected to the real world. So I'd like to say I've tried to be thoughtful about making this a coherent pathway, something that's vertically aligned, something that moves from just a curriculum and some experiences to a more holistic approach where students are doing things real and relevant, and something connected to the world, something that's constantly changing. So we're provided with the access to that. But what it really has done is it's brought us to this capstone experience. And so we added in the capstone class. I'd like Mr. Murray to talk a little bit about what he does in the capstone class. We have a couple of posters of some of our previous experiences, and then the students will show you some of the work they're doing in the class right now.
So I'll be brief because I think you should hear from the students more than me, but capstone class is really like as a former engineering student, it's the class I always wanted. So they take this knowledge they get down here, and then they try to put it into action, like in a real world, authentic way. So they start their kind of journey with a problem. So they don't just pick a cool thing a cool widget they want to build. They start with a problem. So it's not just a problem they think or that their friends think is cool. They start with a research data-backed problem. So some of our fun ones are actually good ones. You can see the problem. So here we have street flooding. The town of Plymouth actually designs 200% capacity for flooding on the streets, just because of street flooding and blocking of catch basins. So that's a previous project. Ketchup bottles are a cool one. So that group, this is previous years, found out that 20% of ketchup is left in the bottle. So they wanted to redesign that. Sustainability-wise, they wanted to get their ketchup out. So that was a cool one. And our last one is a 5-point harness in an electromagnetic button. And that group was really like a personal problem. One of their mothers couldn't actually press the button on our car harness for seats. So their niece got stuck in a car seat for like an hour until an adult could show up and actually have the strength to press the button. So found a bunch of data backing up some safety issues with car seats and invested in trying to solve that problem. So now we got a whole new batch of problems this year. We have 5 groups. 2 of them are going to present you today. So they'll go through their problems, and we're right in the meat of trying to figure out prototypes and just starting to build them, and we'll be testing them soon. So they're kind of in the meat of it, so I'm kind of barraging them to come present now. But by the end of the year, they'll have real working prototypes, and they'll be designed, built, and tested. And we'll bring it to the showcase on Scott talked about. So I'm going to have Cam, Teague, and Max come up first, present theirs, and then Aurora and Abigail will come up.
Yeah, so there's 4.
Hello. We're a group in the class that he was just talking about. So our problem that we picked this year is alarm fatigue. Like you were saying before, we all had to come into this class like in the summer too. So like he sent us an email. It was like during your summer this year, your homework, not really homework, but like look around your life and see like 25 different problems that you like see day to day and just come up with that. That's all you need. So we all did that. We like set it up on a board and like the first like couple of days of school, we like ranked them on what we saw, if like all of us saw it in the group. This isn't just us three, obviously, like the whole class, like the 20 kids or whatever. Like we would rank them like into tiers of like what we thought we could complete in that school time frame, stuff like that. And this is one of the, so actually, sorry, we're kind of a unique group to be up here because all three of us want to be engineers and are like applying to schools for that. And I've actually myself gone through all those classes and they're great. And I've done the projects that he's talked about. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you guys for letting us do that. So we actually at first didn't have this problem. We went through like the engineering design process on another problem about like golf swings, and we had just like run into a couple of roadblocks. So we ended up having to like reevaluate and like start from fresh. So we are a group working on alarm fatigue. One of our other students in our class is the lifeguard, and the problem that we had to like that we kind of like jumped on is, well, when you're a lifeguard, you can't always get everyone's attention with just a whistle. So we did that. We researched it out, found other like peer-reviewed like topics, like saw what was on the market, basically, because like you don't want to do something that someone's already came up with the idea and like to complete it. So we researched all that, made this problem statement. You can read it if you want. It's kind of wordy, but like this is how they have to be. And I turned it off. So right now we're in the phase of like basically just we wanted to actually I forgot about this. We met with the like an industry professional, so we got all set up with every group in the class got set up with like an engineer that actually does something like so like we are with a mechanical engineer from
BAE Systems.
BAE Systems. And we meet with him like once or twice, like every like 2 weeks, and just like basically like he gives us like some like good like tips and stuff and like reviews the project just to like have us like more of like a job like you're reporting to somebody. So you have to like they hold you accountable to like do work. You know what I mean? So for us we have this looks like this is a bad first slide. I'm not gonna lie. But it's like we're going through like the 3 senses right now. So we're on the first stage of prototyping. We just want to figure out which sense we want to focus on for like to get people's attention. So we had 3. So we all came up with like this is the craziest part actually. We had 25 ideas each that we had to figure out, and like they got insane. Like one of mine was like, we're just gonna drain the whole pool, and like so like we all came together and like brought like 75 ideas, and then we like brought them to like other peers around the school and stuff like that, and just like got down to a top 3. So our top 3 is we got the speakers around the pool because we heard a lot that like sometimes like if you're in a big pool space and there's only one person blowing the whistle, like the sound will travel, like you just like won't hear it, stuff like that. Another one that we have is right here. This is our first like real like prototype. We got like a wrist buzzer, which obviously when we figure it out a little bit more, it won't be wired, but when you
So there's a button and battery pack on it. Eventually we'd have to order parts to make it wireless. We don't have to those yet. So there's a wrist strap right here, which eventually will be wireless and waterproof and stuff. So when lifeguard wants to get the attention of swimmers, they all have the waterproof wristband on. They sometimes can't hear the whistle and stuff. So they feel it, they hear it underwater, or if they're roughhousing or something that they wouldn't notice the whistle, they would be able to feel that and get the attention of the child who's being.
That's actually Mr. Tilly was talking about. We could implement this in Sky Zone and stuff like that. How do you bring it to get people out of it? And then this is another one that we're working on. This is like a light gun where you can like change like the frequency. We're thinking like in a pool, like, this is like, we're trying to think of like multi-stage, because like, obviously the whistle, we're not gonna like really replace that. Like, we're just trying to think of like ways that we can get like multiple different like if everyone has to get out, they know they're gonna get out, you know what I mean? So this one is more for that, where we thought like every pool already has lights anyways, so if we just have something that would switch them out for like maybe you click a button and it's like red flashing lights and everyone gets out of the pool, something like that. So yeah, that's what we've done so far. We're currently working on like our idea for testing all our prototypes and stuff to figure out which road we're gonna end up going down. But thank you guys for
All right, I'm gonna bring up Abby Day and Laura Coffey. They have a little more refined prototype than they are working on volleyball. So let me just,
Hi, I'm Laura Coffey. I'm at the day. And yeah, ours is on a shoe ankle brace. And for context, our promise statement is that the increasing cost of youth sports makes durable equipment necessary, but ankle braces destroy athletes' sport shoes. Ankle braces are essential to athletes that participate in sports that involve running and jumping because of the high risk that ankle injuries pose to them. But when athletes do wear ankle braces, as they continuously put on and take off their shoes, it slowly wears away after tearing inside the shoes. And for example, this is a shoe of my teammate who wears ankle braces, and this is her shoe only after 2 years of wearing ankle braces. So this means that as athletes continue to wear ankle braces and it wears away on the inside of their shoes and they're forced to buy new shoes after 1 or 2 years, it only adds to the cost that youth sports takes away to the families. And so basically we had like a lot of different steps to get to our prototype. First off, we started with a different problem, just like the other group. We were going to work on the frequency of ACL tears in female athletes. However, that brought us to the conclusion that we would really end up with a product, and we kind of wanted to end up with a product, so we changed our focus and began on this. We went through the process of finding peer-reviewed articles and all sorts of already existing products, and we actually also went through the process of using the official government patent search to find official patents in like actual real life. And then after all of our research, we could actually start brainstorming. And with that, we had a lot of help. We went to a lot of different people in the school. We talked to people. We had surveys. We also had our peer review mentor. Her name's Sydney. I forget the company that she works for, but she mainly works on the assembly line and oversees that. So she's given us a lot of tips on the actual design process and stuff like that. And during our brainstorming, we came up with 3 top ideas that ranged from a detachable ankle brace, which was ankle brace incorporated into a shoe, but the upper part of the brace could detach from it. And there was also a more simple idea with an additional attachment to already existing shoes that would fit into the heel of the shoe and push on the outsides of it to allow for the space for the ankle brace to slip in and out without causing damage. But the final idea that we went with was the simple ankle brace involved in the shoe. As I said before, our final idea that we decided to work on is the actual ankle brace incorporated into the shoe. We wanted a system where you can't break the shoe because the ankle brace is the shoe. It's all the same piece, so you can't break it as easily. So our first prototype, we began with some tattered court shoes and old ankle braces, as you see here. I'll remove this just to show off the inside. Please, thank you. So basically, we have. Oh yes, please. So we have the shoe. There is a bottom hinge piece to the actual ankle brace part, and we went to disassemble this ankle brace, and we actually broke the hinge in the process. But we used plastic to solder it back together. We actually had to research what kind of plastic the actual ankle brace was made of, so we could solder it correctly. And so we got that fixed, and then we took this bottom piece and some black fabric, and we sewed it into the shoe. You see how you can't really see that? That's how it's supposed to be. Since it's incorporated into the shoe, we can put the sole in here, and now we got more space for the ankle brace as well as the foot. As well, you can't see it on the inside, but the side pieces of foam that are used to support the foot in most shoes, they're cut out so you can put the ankle brace inside of it so that it doesn't like rub against and you're not constricted into your foot. And as you can see up here, we have a lot of our different in the process images. I have some pictures of the sewing process and stuff. So after we finished our prototype, we were able to test it, and just finished the testing. And we did that by, I personally wore the ankle brace during my volleyball practices, so I could test the mechanics of the prototype and see how durable and how well people can move in it. And then I compared it to an average ankle brace by having on my teams that number wears ankle braces to wear it. And we took notes on that, and based on the results, we'll be able to do some revisions and work on our final model increase.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Like I said, it was really a way of showcasing the great work that the work the students are doing, they undertake, but also to talk about the fact that we're really being intentional here about how we're moving students through these programs. Thank you.
Mr. Swanson, are you up next?
Yes, before we start, I just want, we have a few familiar faces here presenting some new course changes. Thank you guys.
Nice job, guys.
Great job. I also am thrilled to introduce you to a new member of our leadership team, Ms. Kim Iannucci, who's our Director of Guidance. We wanted to get a face to the name, and she's also here to help answer any questions while they present their course changes. So, Mr. Swanson, take it away. Thank you.
Head right over here.
Wherever you want.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'll just give you a quick overview of what I think are some fairly significant improvements to the wellness curriculum here at the high school. Together with the members of our wellness department, we spent a decent amount of time over the past year and a half reviewing the current status of our curriculum and talking about ways that we might be able to grow and improve the program. And what we're recommending for next year is a model that moves toward more of an elective approach to high school wellness, in which there'd be some significant changes, but not a total overhaul. Our 9th grade course would remain primarily the same, which is a semester of a fairly traditional physical education program for a semester. And then the half of the year also spent in a health course. So we don't really anticipate or recommending any changes to the 9th grade program. But what we'd like to recommend for students in grades 10 through 12 is the opportunity to select between a number of different options as opposed to everybody taking a standard one semester wellness course in grades 10, 11, and 12. And so one of the options would look very similar to what all of our students take now in those grades, but then we'd also like to offer several other options, and I know you've had a chance to take a look at them and read the course descriptions. The options would be a competitive games class, which is really designed for students who prefer a high-paced, more competitive approach, almost like an accelerated physical education program for students who are probably interested in athletics and want to compete There would also be an option called lifetime activities that would include opportunities like yoga, hiking, orienteering, and other activities of that nature. And then a third option, which would be really a fourth option if you include the one that looks a lot like what we have now, personal fitness and strength training, where students would be able to spend most of the time in our school's terrific fitness room, pursuing a program that's really inspired by their own particular interests, have an opportunity to design a program together with the instructor that would help them to make significant gains in terms of fitness and strength. So that recommendation has been inspired in part by some site visits that we did earlier this year. We learned from programs in Hingham, in Marshfield, and in Lincoln-Sudbury. And each of the teachers in the program in our department had participated in those visits, came back and envisioned a model that we thought would work really well for Silver Lake students. So we'd like to make that move for next year, hoping for your support there. And then also recommending a course that would not necessarily fulfill the wellness graduation requirement, but would be an enrichment opportunity for students who are interested in becoming certified as officials in youth or even high school sports. And so this course is called Foundations in Sports Officiating, and it follows the lead of a handful of other schools in Massachusetts that have already done this. And it would also be in partnership with the MIAA. They're recognizing a pretty severe shortage in officials, especially at the youth level. And so this program has had some good success at a few other schools in southeastern Massachusetts. We think it would probably do very well here, and almost belongs as an adjunct to our CTE program because it's delivering some skills that would make our students immediately employable even while they're still students here. So that's our vision for next year with wellness. I'm happy to entertain any questions that you might have about it, and very hopeful about the direction of the program to make some of those changes.
Jean?
I think they're both great ideas. How would you go about, like if you get too much of an interest for one or the other, how would you go about ranking, I guess, the students who will get in?
Yeah, I think we can only at this point make sort of an educated guess about which of those programs will prove to be the most popular. And so my guess is we would promote these and try to educate our students as well as we can during the course selection process. Give everybody a really clear idea of what their options are, then wait and see what really sparks people the most. I would predict that there would be a pretty even distribution of interest among those main four options. And I would predict that we would get a pretty high level of interest in the officiating course as well. And then we would have to make some decisions. As we always do, I think regardless of department, trying to allocate your staffing resources in the places where you get the most bang for your buck. And it would, I guess, only be a guess at this point where exactly they lie, but I'm happy to report that the current staffing we have, I think, is adequate to this, and that the interests and the skills of our teachers align really well with those options, including the new officiating recommendation, because we have a licensed basketball official on our staff. Bob Savoy, who's also our head basketball coach, is a veteran and very experienced official, and he's very enthusiastic about being the person to launch this program.
And then is it my understanding that the first course just presented that could be taken in lieu of wellness for 10 through 12 students? So someone could take competitive games instead of taking their wellness class in 10th, 11th, or 12th. Okay.
Yes.
So you could always, if you needed to, have 2 competitive games classes and one based on potential enrollment.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Actually, was it just the competitive games that would be an alternative, or were the other?
The others would all be options.
Okay,
So
but just not the officiating class, but the other ones?
Right.
Okay.
The officiating you would take in addition to your
Okay.
one semester that you're already taking. So if you're a sophomore, junior, senior, you would choose among the traditional option that looks very much like what we have now, or the competitive games, or the lifetime activities, or the personal fitness and strength training. So you have those 4 options. You pick one of those for sure, and then if you're interested in the officiating, you could add that on top of it.
As like an elective?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And all of those classes will be available to 10 through 12?
Correct. That's our recommendation.
And one of them would not be a prerequisite. So like a CTE student that doesn't take a standard block, if they had room in their schedule, they could take the officiating.
Correct. Yes.
Motion. I will make a motion that we accept the courses for physical education wellness as presented by Mr. Swanson.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Mr. Swanson, I will happily volunteer to come into the officiating class and heckle. But for important network simulations, I do a great job of heckling around.
We're looking for some talent in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Too funny.
We have one change. We're going to take our current robotics class, that's been taught by Mr. Mello for a long time, make it a semester class. He's just seen that the project's in there's almost too much time, and he'd rather cut it down and be a little more explicit about what the kids, what the goals in mind. He does the robotics with the Arduino boards. There's a lot of programming, sensors and outcomes for the devices that he does like a little soccer game with them. A challenge to get over a gully and to race each other. So he feels like it's a better fit for a semester, so we're just going to bump that back to a semester. And in doing so, it opened up an opportunity for something that he was presented by his son. When his son came back from college and goes, "Dad, you need to teach AI at school." And so we tossed around a little bit. We talked to Dave Murphy, and I know there's a district committee around AI. We talked to Mr. Towner as well. And although Mr. Towner does do some AI within his class, it's not really an AI class. So Mr. Mello reached out to a college professor that he's been working with who does an AI class, and they sort of collaborated. He honed it down to something that would seem to be appropriate to fit with the high school. And really what it comes down to is talk about the proper use of AI, tools that you can use, how you should use them, and sort of how it's going to impact our future, and sort of the end experience in that the kids will put together a project with AI. But really focusing on, I think, the proper use of it, and what tools are available. Even though we're sort of limited here at the school in the future by what we'll be able to use, we'll still make effective use of that and give kids a training in it. I know my son is freshman at college and is using it all the time as well, and never really, doesn't really know how to use it. He's learning on his own, so a way of getting students a little more adept at using it, what the tools, the power of those tools. So happy to take any questions on that.
Is there anybody else in the area that's teaching an AI course that you could piggyback on some of the curriculum?
We could look out to a few other schools. I haven't really looked at any others, but that'd be a good idea to see what some of the projects they're doing. I do know that, talk about Project Lead the Way came out with an AI class. Not that we're going to move to that. But what Mr. Mello did with the college professors seemed to be really a very thoughtful way of approaching it and really applicable to high schools. But yeah, it'd be a good idea.
Yeah. To speak to that, I've been approached by school districts across Massachusetts, both to ask who is teaching AI formally, to craft policy around AI usage. This is in my role in the Mass Association of School Committees, and we've held back on proposing formal language for districts to adopt because we're in the Wild West right now of AI. It's almost like when social media was in its infancy. Every single day something new's popping up. So if we crafted policy, it would be redundant or it would be obsolete by the time we actually voted it through, right? So having a course where we can put some guardrails that are adaptable day to day and having an instructor guide students through this, I think is a wise move. So I would make a proposal to accept the proposed courses presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You're going to go teach it?
Not have AI write the course.
You actually can have AI write course. For what it's worth, just say humble suggestion, the kids are already really quite advanced in how they're using that. It would be fascinating to see a sort of crossbreeding of your capstone course with the AI course, in the sense that if they learn to make AI a sort of intellectual companion, they will make fascinating strides. So my boss, for instance, has a daughter who is a water polo player at the college level. Very, very high level player and things like that. And just for kicks, she sat at one of her water polo games and just typed in the action of what was happening, who passed to who, whatever, as she did. And the AI then generated back, you have deficiencies in your midfield, you're not creating enough structure through that, you need to do blah, blah, blah. And it was really, really fascinating, and wound up aligning very well with what the coach criticized at halftime after the game and other things like that. But like that sort of thing on a personal level, I do a lot of creative writing. My literary journal publishing went like way up this year, not because I use it to do my creative writing, I don't. I use it to help me pair up pieces with the right journals. And then give me ideas on how to frame how I'm going to do the piece and things like that. So literary acceptance rates are like in the 1% to 2% range, mine is 6.5%. So each of the kids will have things like that. Like Graham took video of himself running and then got like an evaluation of his gait. And then started doing like exercises to strengthen his left hip and everything like that. And so, and lest you think that he ignored expertise in this, his uncle is a PhD trained physical therapist. And when he suffered an ankle injury, he asked ChatGPT for a rehab regimen and then sent it to his uncle, who was like, yeah, that's pretty spot on. You can do that. So lots of different areas that these kids have an interest in, and if they are able to make it a sort of companion, then make really interesting leaps in the Go ahead.
Hi, Melissa Green, Social Studies Department. I'm here to make a slightly different request, and that is to change our program of studies to remove AP European history. That is part of a bigger plan that we have within our department. It reflects what current student interest is. We have not run AP European history since the 2019-2020 school year due to just declining student requests and how we're best allocating our staff and also where their areas of expertise lie. Along with that decline, though, we have seen a rise in the number of students who are requesting to take economics courses. And we've run many, many sections of economics at the accelerated level. What we are seeking to do, and I will stand up here again in a year hopefully, and ask you to add in AP micro and macroeconomics, again to reflect what the current interest and needs are of our students. But in just trying to clean up the program studies and talking to our new director of guidance, felt like 6 years of not running this course and really not even having a staff member who has that area of expertise in the room within their current schedule to do that it made most sense to probably remove that and then work towards this goal of adding in AP economics.
I want to acknowledge and appreciate the fact that we're not just adding courses, we're acknowledging where we're seeing a decline in interest in our student body and trying to take things off and not just constantly add new programs. So thank you for that diligence. Appreciate that. I make a motion to accept the removal of the course.
Further discussion?
I just wanted to say, I believe we just did the same thing in Norwell in the past couple of years.
It reflects the national trends around that particular course. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? For whatever it's worth, my son, no offense to Mr. McMahon, believes that he's now a Wall Street.
So, yeah.
And you could possibly give anybody, Mr. Mayor, is so much more.
Twice this week, Mr. McMahon.
It's like, you know, half the stuff he's told you, I've already told you, he's like, oh, like, I don't have any more.
So we'll be getting some fan training soon. No, we said Eric talked to him. No. Oh, yeah, yes.
All right, Jason, fire away. Visuals.
So this is a joke that is probably for a different generation, but I've gone a little bit Ross Perot, and considering how upset I am with the Republicans and Democrats, I'm proud to be Ross Perot today. So, we have a very interesting and unique situation here at Silver Lake, and I prepared this speech and got into some research, and I think some of you know that I can get really nerdy on things. I made this presentation in my car this morning. It's 22 minutes long. I've narrowed it down to 2. Hopefully I can stick closer to 2 than 22. But we've done a great job trying to maintain the teaching that goes on inside our buildings. And we've done a decent job taking care of the buildings. A decent job. But let's be honest, we occupy the 2 most valuable pieces of real estate that the 3 towns collectively own. These 2 buildings on this campus roughly constitute a value of $500 million. I don't usually say the B word when I'm talking about local things. These 2 buildings, if we were to construct them today, would cost over $500 million to replace. I'm a taxpayer. I would own some of that $500 million mortgage we would have to take out collectively to pay for these buildings. Now, we've hired an engineering firm to come out and assess the state of our buildings. And they've told us that we have about $73 million worth of repairs that we need to do to these 2 buildings to maintain them, so we don't find ourselves in a situation where we have to buy 2 new buildings for $500 million. Now, our maintenance staff has looked at this. We have looked at it together as the Buildings and Grounds Committee. We've had the selectmen from all 3 towns come in, the finance committees from all 3 towns come in, and we've had some discussions about this really big nut that we all collectively have to solve together. We desperately want to avoid this tall bar over here, right? This tall bar over here represents us having to take out a $400 million bond. Because that's about how much we would end up having to pay collectively to replace these 2 buildings. That's even with MSBA funding, that's state subsidized funding. The state usually tries to come in around 40 to 60% reimbursement. We do not qualify for the 60%. We would come closer to the 40, but they only reimburse for certain things. And they don't account for the extra square footage needed for a viable CTE program. So the amount we would most likely receive from the state would be about 20% of the overall project, meaning we would be on the hook for $400 million. At 6% with a 20-year municipal bond, that would be $34.4 million per year to service the debt on 2 brand new buildings. I don't even want to tell you what Kingston, Plimpton, or Halifax would have to contribute to that, because I'm hoping we don't go there today. This bar in the middle is actually the best solution. This yellow bar here represents us taking out a $60 million loan. Okay, I know we said $73 million in repairs. Our custodian and maintenance staff have said they think they can handle internally, over the next 15 years or so, about $13 million worth of the repairs themselves internally through our regular operating budget and maintenance program. But it still leaves us on the hook for $60 million in today's dollars to make all those other repairs. I don't know if you've seen the climate currently for asking for more money from our taxpayers. It's not good. It's not good at all. My town, last year, voted no on replacing a defunct fire station. Something that we all need in our most desperate hour. My town said no. And it's not because no one believed we didn't need to repair or replace it. No one could swallow the increase to their property taxes that they get 4 times a year. So I have this green bar over here. I have a way for us to fund maintaining these 2 pieces of property that will have a net 0 impact on the taxpayers of our 3 communities. So here's my proposal. Right now, we're still paying off the mortgages for these 2 buildings. A mortgage for these buildings is called exempt capital. Our 3 towns collectively agreed to take out the mortgages to fund these buildings. The debt we are paying this year on the 2 buildings is $1.3 million. Nice news, one of those loans is going to be all done this year. We're going to let go of $700,000 of our debt. My proposal to the committee tonight and to the 3 towns is that this year we put $700,000 into the Silver Lake Regional Schools budget in the Silver Lake stabilization line for capital expenses. This was something that was voted in by town meetings a few years ago. We, at the time, told our towns we would not utilize this fund if we didn't have to. We've been using E&D, excess and deficiencies, for town people. That's very similar to free cash to pay for the maintenance of these buildings for the past 10 years. It's not a reliable, predictable, or sustainable method. I right here have a predictable, sustainable method for us to take care of these buildings. Next year, I would also propose that we pick up the remaining $600,000 because our second mortgage will be all done next year. And this will make no peaks or valleys for the towns to absorb. We will continue to maintain these buildings with the current funds that we've been utilizing from the towns. For us, this would just require a vote of our budget to include this. For the towns, it could cause them to have to talk to legal counsel and to consult with their financial department, because we're moving from exempt capital into operating dollars. Exempt capital, by statute, is supposed to roll off when you're done with the project it was taken out for. Since so many of our towns are so close to their levy limit, this could incur some votes at town meeting and even potentially the ballot box, even though the net effect on taxpayers would be 0. I humbly request and plead with you, my fellow committee members, and my fellow taxpayers to accept this proposal so we can pay $1.3 million a year to take care of $500 million worth of assets. I'm happy to take any questions.
Would you foresee that being, is there any time window into the future, or is that just perpetual?
Any time window for what, Gordon?
So that budget line for stabilization.
My recommendation would be that budget line for FY27 would be $700,000 because we still have about $600,000 in excluded debt to keep it at 1.3. For FY28, which we shouldn't even be worrying about right now, but we do have to look out to the future, we fully absorb the 1.3 into the Silver Lake Stabilization Fund under our operating budget. So if the towns agree with the proposal this year, we would have to do a similar mechanism potentially next year too to fully realize the 1.3. Moving forward from that point, we would have to have conversations with the select boards and the finance committees to see if we keep this at 1.3 or if we allow this to grow naturally with the percentage increases of our budget. First, we just have to see if people understand and accept the ideas I'm proposing today. I would caution our towns against letting this go. If we let this go, we're going to be in a heap of trouble. I'd be happy to tell you how much each of our towns would have to pay if we took out $60 million or if we took out $400 million.
So I want to just make sure it's clear for the record for everybody and things like that. It's not 2 years that we would put 1.3 million in. What we're essentially saying is we would create a mechanism whereby there would be approximately $1.3 million on an annual basis that went into a stabilization fund. From that stabilization fund, we would fund capital projects.
We would use the $1.3 million every year in perpetuity to try and chip away at the $73 million in repairs in today's dollars.
Yes.
Right? Keith and Cody, I had an extensive conversation with them. They preferred us trying to take out a loan for $60 million so we could address these issues now in today's dollars before inflation and cost creep continues to accelerate the repairs of buildings. But I don't think it's politically viable to ask our taxpayers to increase their current burden to us by a factor of 4, because that's what it would be. For us to take out a loan right now for $60 million, the tax burden would be over $2.5 million for Kingston, $1.2 million for Halifax, and about $500,000 for Plimpton. Just to take care of the buildings, not to address any of the operational or personnel issues of our department or any other department in the towns.
And Keith and Cody's position on that was what? Basically today's dollar values versus future dollar values as opposed to.
Keith and Cody's point on that was well taken, and again, that was represented by that middle bar where we would just take out $60 million today and hammer away at these problems right now as soon as possible.
Gordon. Just a reminder, neither of them are in this district anymore. But I guess what I just want to clarify is this has nothing to do with the Silver Lake operating budget. This is 100% with the town's borrowing of the 1.3 million right now that we're still paying off for the buildings.
No.
Is that
So,
right?
I'm glad you asked that question. So, and with my proposal, we would move from exempt capital, which is borrowing, into the operating budget.
Right, we would move the money that's currently
It would be
being.
in the Silver Lake budget.
Right, it would become part of the Silver Lake budget.
Right. We have a line.
But it's currently not part of the Silver Lake budget. It's money that the towns are paying out
Yes.
to the borrower.
Right.
Yes. So this doesn't have anything currently to do with the operating budget. This would be something that proposal going forward, because we know that the debt is falling off, that we're going to ask the towns, or is that going to require approval from town meeting as well as the Board of Selectmen of each individual town to keep that money within the school department?
So I would advise us to talk to town council. Always advise talking to lawyers before we proceed far on any of these conversations. But theoretically, let's say we went forward with this idea and we put $700,000 into Silver Lake's budget this year. In that line item, the Silver Lake Stabilization Fund. If Plimpton has the ability to cover its assessment without increasing taxes, if they can meet it under their levy, they would have to be no vote at town meeting for this individual idea. They would vote our budget, as they do every single year. If Halifax, this allows them to bump into their levy because we're moving from exempt capital to operating, they might have to have an override at town meeting and an override on their ballot, even though the net effect on their taxpayer would be a 0. These are very complicated ideas that I'm trying to boil down to accessible terms. Not easy. I'm happy to discuss this with anybody in Pratt as well.
Can I ask a stupid question? Let's just say we pay off that loan, but we don't put the money that we were paying into the loan into what, the capital? What?
It would go back to the capital.
Okay, yeah, so what my thing was, let's just say if we don't do that and we pay off the loan, where is the money that we were all paying? Where
Stays with the towns.
So the
it would
cool
go
thing is
kick
it
back
would be
into the
relief to
town?
the towns if the towns say no,
Yeah,
which right now, because of the fiscal pressures on the towns, I understand why they might not want to say yes to this. $700,000 of our assessments will fall off this year, which could make it very attractive to the town, say, we're going to take that deal right now, we'll deal with the building situation later.
later, yeah.
That's why I'm having this very critical conversation. If we hold off on this, first of all, if we ever let it drop off, try getting it back,
Right, yeah.
right? And second of all, we already have projects, putting this on the record, apologize, we have projects we've kicked down the road 6 or 7 years in a row. And they're getting more expensive, and they're getting more to the point where we might have a mid-year crisis where we have to shut down one of the buildings. Now, I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, but every year we don't take care of these things, those chances increase. Those chances increase dramatically. And then we'd really be in a situation, right? So, again, net zero impact on the taxpayers.
Yeah.
We continue maintaining the two most valuable pieces of property in our 3 towns collectively. We own them together. The $500 million for the 2 buildings is actually conservative. It was just easier to work with that number, to be honest with you. It's very conservative.
So 0 impact to
The taxpayers.
taxpayers.
For this idea, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm on board because each one of us all has our own elementary school. And I'm not really following Kingston or Plimpton, I'm looking at Halifax. And I'm seeing like some really bad stuff that could be happening. So if we could kind of propose this as these elementary school kids eventually come to the middle and the high school and it's not a burden to the taxpayers, I mean, I don't see how that's not a win-win.
So the engineering report was actually quite hopeful in the way it kind of delineated us taking care of these problems to extend the lives of these schools for the next 20, 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
as opposed to potentially after replacing them in the next 10 to 20, right? So to really put it in perspective. If we take care of our problems, this report that we paid for will let us keep these buildings functioning at a high level for many, many years to come.
Yes, sir.
So I'd just like to add that facilities, Chair, the Achilles heels that we have in these buildings, some of the most significant items. We have HVAC systems, the cafeteria system goes. We can't have school. We can't heat the cafeteria, we cannot have school. So a lot of these sound management ideas, this is the sound way to go after it, especially if we're looking at an opportunity now while the towns are already spending that money. But the other alternative is crisis management, where we would be going to the 3 towns, asking them to have town meetings to give us $500,000 to put an air conditioning or heating unit on a cafeteria, and then we still can't open school right away because we have to go out and bid it and fix it. So I think sound management deals this, and I hope it can be explained to the taxpayers that this is the best way to go forward. And I'm not in favor of borrowing money if you don't have to. This gets us away from borrowing money.
Yeah. Great.
Jason, what are you looking for this evening?
So tonight I'm looking for 2 votes. It can be made as one motion if desired. I would like permission to engage with the select boards, Board of Selectmen, the 3 towns, the finance committees of the 3 towns, any citizens of the 3 towns on this proposal as your agent. And I would like us to also propose to include $700,000 in the Silver Lake stabilization line of the FY27 Silver Lake school budget.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just a reminder, a couple of years ago, Gordon, you might remember this because I believe that it might have even been your idea. We were talking about this debt falling off because we were in such shambles with our budget. We were trying to see where money would come from. I know we were talking about possibly refinancing this debt, but we were so close to the end that that kind of didn't make sense. But this is money that I think we've all acknowledged that we need. So I think it would make sense if we can try to keep it earmarked for the schools instead of, losing it.
So there's a video of me explaining the Silver Lake Stabilization Fund at the Plimpton Town Meeting 4 years ago. And I was asked by a member of the town, how do we know, Jason, you're not going to take that money and move it over to the operating budget to take care of teaching positions or this, that, or the next thing? And I said, you know what? The safeguard is vote us out. So all of us need to be committed that if we put this money into the Silver Lake Stabilization Fund, that money belongs in that line, never to be moved, never to be used for another purpose. And we need to continue the great work of the Buildings and Ground Committee to have a capital plan that we share with the towns continuously and update them on yearly. It needs to be extremely transparent. If we ever move a single cent of that money, I think we should all resign. Right? So this is going to take some trust, but it's built on the idea that right now it will cost our taxpayers, our neighbors, and ourselves $0 to do this and to keep these buildings functioning at the level we need so everyone else can do their jobs and provide the awesome education on a daily basis. Carl, sorry. Through you, Mr. Chair.
I'd just like to say that as a selectman from Kingston and with a lot of financial experience in Kingston, I think this is a great plan. And I do think that you've just hit upon the key, that it needs to be used for capital projects. I've seen in Kingston, we took off, paid off the intermediate school, and a lot of that money has gone into the operating budget because it wasn't identified and it wasn't tied into capital. And I'd be afraid of the same thing here. If you don't identify this as for capital, it absolutely will end up being used to subsidize your operating budget. I do think that it will require a Proposition 2.5 override in Kingston because we're so close to the levy limit that when you're taking $700K or whatever the number will be for Kingston, probably $500K, out of the excess that we can add on to 2.5, and you're putting it into the operating budget, we're going to have an issue. But I, for one, will support this idea 100%. Thank you.
Carl, I appreciate that. What a confidence coming from you. That means the world to me. I also put it back on the committee that if we're going to ask the towns to make this maneuver to help us realize these funds for our capital, that we're going to have to work extremely hard to make sure that our operating budget arrives extremely close to 2.5% and nothing more, right? So the burden is also on us to bring home a budget that is acceptable by all three towns. So explaining this to their taxpayers is not confused and the uproar over us trying to bring in a budget any higher than that. So that's my 2 cents as someone who's been doing this for 13 years now, is we need to focus on a 2.5% budget to deliver to our towns as close as possible for this to really have a chance of our voters passing it at town meeting and at the ballot box.
I just have a question. Does the stabilization fund anything other than capital projects?
No, so the Silver Lake Stabilization Fund is specifically identified for capital.
So there's no opportunity for funds
But this is where,
to go elsewhere?
this is where the relationship between the school committee and the select boards and the finance committees is based on trust that's built over years. Because there are some school committee members who would very snarkily say, but we have line item autonomy back to the towns. I hope we can acknowledge that none of us have said those words to any of our select boards or finance committees in any recent years, right? And I've never said that back to my towns. But I've had school committee members on this committee years ago say those words. It broke trust. It made accepting proposals like this a lot harder back then than it is today, right? So again, this is going to be communication, open-mindedness and transparency, and we have to maintain that trust that we've built over the past decade.
I think selling it no cost out of pocket and kind of piggyback to what Mark had said, that if and when something does happen and we don't do this, then kids miss out on school, and like he said, we have to send proposals out, and we have to look at them and decide which, it would just be a nightmare.
I think our taxpayers are smart enough to vote for this if we're smart enough to explain it to them. Right?
So, and this is money that was committed to facilities. Now we're going to commit it to facility maintenance instead of facility debt. It's all facility money. And to the towns that are looking at an override, the override is not because of this item. Your override is because the remainder of your expense budget is at a point where it's increased past to what your levy can tolerate. Because this money was already being spent every single year. But to go grab this money and put it towards another project within your town is not sound financial management. We still have to maintain, as Jason said, the two most valuable assets that these three towns collectively own.
Gordon, may I ask one other question? Would this account be able to gain any interest since it is, since it would be a substantial amount of money?
So the stabilization fund, the reserve fund would have all the same functions of any stabilization or reserve fund. So potentially it could accrue depending where we invested it and put it. But at this point, we would be draining it almost as quickly as we were putting it in.
We spend a lot.
For the next 20 years, right?
It would be.
We have been doing a lot of these types of projects, but in an underfunded way through E&D. We have typically allocated anywhere between $400K and $1 million through E&D, depending on how E&D went, which has left us in relatively good shape. But we need to have a more fixed, ongoing commitment. And like as Jason said, E&D is not a reliable source to do that. So folks, we have a seconded motion that is on the floor. I'd like to call the vote for that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes on both points. So now I want to, if this was not part of the motion, but I do want to give it as direction to our finance and administration group. As Jason noted, we're going to need to bring in an operating budget separate from the stabilization fund that is, at or below 2.5%, which is going to mean reductions in different places. So obviously going to be prepared for that tonight, but if you would come prepared with the scenarios, I would appreciate it.
That was part of
It's part of the budget presentation, the 2.5.
We got 2.5.
Sorry, I had to look that back.
Yeah, I think at this point, it's probably incumbent upon us as a committee to revisit the 2.5 proposal and see if we have any adjustments we'd like to see. If there's additional revenue that came in, if there's any retirements that we want to consider not replacing positions of. Things are going to get a little bit more clear at the end of the month when the governor releases her version of the budget. So I think maybe at our next meeting, we could dig into that a little bit more deeply.
Karen will want to make that an agenda item. All right, let's go to our admin reports.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Over the past few months, SLRMS has hosted visitors, teachers, and administrators from across the state to see our Open Science curriculum, both in 7th and 8th grade, our investigating history curriculum, and our democratic knowledge project in action, our curriculum. So that's been really affirming, and teachers keep reaching out to our teachers for best practices. We're proud of that. On February 4th, the Money Foundation will be coming to capture our collaborative discourse efforts that are rooted in the skills of building, justifying, and synthesizing. Mr. Farrell also talked about them in his speech, I'll call it.
Speech.
The students are entering the drama production of The Little Mermaid that will be cast
that has been cast, and it will be at the end of March. And our students have also been fully on board in developing assemblies for our No Place for Hate movement, both here in the high school and the middle school. They led 2 assemblies. One was with skits connected to allyship, and students who led that committee are actually handing out No Place for Hate stickers when they see a student being an ally to other students, which has been really powerful. Another assembly right before the break was connected to taking a pledge for being a No Place for Hate school, and you will see next time you come in the lobby our No Place for Hate tree, and all of the students will have leaves on that tree. They're really proud of that, and each one of those leaves represents their identity and their acceptance of that identity. So we're really proud of that, and we've taken some of the high school videos that they have created and shown the kids too, to show the partnership. We think that's really powerful, so I had to bring you a sticker as well today. Thanks for being an ally. That's all I have.
Thanks, Becky.
Hi, good evening, happy new year. If you walked into our main entrance at all in the month of December, you may have tripped or stumbled over a box or a bin, because just about every single one of our student clubs, as well as individual students, just sort of on their own, collected food, toys, clothes, hats, scarves, sneakers. There were SUV loads of items that were taken just before the holiday for local community members. So shout out to all of our students for just their care and compassion for community members. We were thrilled earlier this week, we welcomed Tim Murphy, class of 1974, to campus. If that name sounds familiar to you, he is the all-time winningest football coach from Harvard University and all of the Ivy League. So he came and met with some of our student athletes, and even though he is retired from coaching, he is not retired from inspiring others. It was pretty cool for him to walk the halls of his former high school. What a cool opportunity for our students to hear from him. So thank you to Mr. Swanson and our Captain's Council, which is a new organization that's been formed by our student athlete leaders for organizing that event. Tomorrow evening, if you're around 6:15 p.m. in between the boys and girls varsity basketball games, we're excited to present our championship rings to our state softball championship team. All of our seniors who graduated last year are home for this event, so we're looking forward to that. We'd love to have our community join us. And the last update that I have for you, I'm excited to share that the Massachusetts State Police have awarded us a grant for an interactive student driver safety program. And so Officer Allen has been in touch with several schools that have hosted this presentation already. We've gotten some great referrals and recommendations, and we're excited to welcome them to our school this spring for our sophomores and juniors, just for some reinforced driving safety. Keep them safe on the roads, making smart choices. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was surprised during this meeting to have the financial report down here and not as part of the consent agenda where it was in December and in October. So I'll take any questions on the financial report. I put it under me in the digital folder for you, but I believe if you want to put it in the consent agenda going forward. Are there any questions? So I gave you the summary.
You can blame me, Sarah.
Sure.
You can blame me for not taking in I really wear the cover.
So I put into the folder the summary and financial report summary and the financial report detail. Are there any questions for me about either of those reports?
Make a motion to accept Sarah's report as presented.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'll make sure they're in the right place next time.
No, my fault. Dr. Clifford.
Okay, I have a few brief updates, but before that, I want to thank everyone at the high school that presented tonight on the changes towards operating, so thank you. A few updates on committees. The The first committee is the K-12 PLA Steering Committee. They've been meeting all fall. They met last on December 2nd. During that meeting, they unpacked standards by reviewing data and discussing observations with the committee. Also, they received updates about progress toward the district literacy plans and core program reviews. At the middle school, we have a core program review going on now. It will be happening throughout the next few months to select a new ELA program for the middle school. Local Literacy is working with teachers at the middle school to select that, and I will have more information on that, and I'll bring those findings to the school committee meeting at the end of the year to present that new curriculum that they've selected. K-12 Math Steering Committee, it's in its second year and conducted meetings this fall, and they last met on December 9th. They were able to review the implementation of both HMH at the middle school, grades 7 and 8, and illustrative math. They were also able to check in on plans for professional development for next year. And they've met with HMH consultants twice already, and hopefully one more time we'll have a consultant coming in the spring. So that's an ongoing piece at the middle school in particular. K-12 Science, Technology, Engineering Steering Committee, that committee will begin in September of 2026. So that will be the first year for science starting next year. And then also I added some of the testing windows for grade 10, ELA, mathematics, and science. Those testing windows are on there. And then for grade 7 and 8, we'll also have MCAS testing windows, with the principals will be communicating out to families to let them know now that those testing windows are students can intend to take the assessments. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. Dr. Brew?
Tonight in the folder you'll find a calendar proposal for next year. You'll find that most of the dates are in alignment with where they occurred, pretty much as the same as last year. The only real change is that we've put our 2 professional development days at the beginning of the year on election dates themselves, so that, especially for our elementary schools that sometimes serve as polling or electoral spaces, it's very hard to have school on the same day when people are coming in to vote. So that's why we schedule them that way, and that's why you'll see them in those votes, in those times of the state election in, I think it's September, and then the other election in November. So that's the reason for those placements there. You can note the timing of the vacations and how they fall. And you'll also notice that we've included 5 potential snow days, which would give us our final day of school. If you notice that there's also notes with regards to the times that school gets out on those last days of school, because there's, in the past, people wanted that noted on the calendar, so that's in there. And if you look at the back, we have worked with our principals in advance to give you dates for upcoming events. And as always, we have asked our principals to use the district calendar to try to prevent as many conflicts as possible. But please recognize that while we keep some of the biggest events conflict-free, there are always going to be some other events that sometimes interrupt with other school events. For example, sports, it's very hard to limit when they play, when they meet, for example. So we do our best, but sometimes there are conflicts. And so tonight we're looking for your review and possibly a vote of support.
I'll make a motion to accept the calendar as proposed.
Second. Just one question. High school graduation will be June 4th, 2027. That's cool. When's the last day of school for seniors? Is that something that's typically?
It has to be within so many days.
Technically, we have to wait until we know if we're going to snow days or not, but it's usually the week before Memorial Day weekend is their exam week. So their last day of class is Friday, like 2 Fridays before. Exactly for your plan?
No.
You will get a big bulletin from me.
Can't wait.
Give you everything you need to know on August 1st.
You know I'm going to earmark it.
That's why it's there.
The only other item I have for tonight is just a reminder that our next meeting, we will have our budget hearing. And, oh, I'm sorry.
We have a motion on the floor, we haven't actually voted it, so all in favor of this?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry.
Any opposed?
That's a good catch.
Thank you. That would have been sad if we didn't want to go to draw that. So we'll have our budget hearing at the next, at our next meeting. Also, Sarah will use the 2.5% to project the assessments as well at our next meeting.
All right, Ms. Leah.
Hey everybody, I will be super quick. Jason, I want to acknowledge the thought and the work and the soul that you put into the idea of stabilization fund. With that being said, you are giving me heart palpitations, so I just want to let you know. But I do want to thank you because I know, I can imagine the work that you put in there was significant. I also want to thank the negotiating subcommittee for their respect and willingness to attempt to reach middle grounds where staff can afford to work in our district, as well as the district being able to afford our staff working in this district. So thank you for continuing to come to the table and just continuing to have very productive conversations. We really appreciate it. And based on my fashion sense, this probably doesn't mean anything, but Gordon, I think it's a great shirt.
Admin review.
I will speak. We elected a new chair tonight. It's Jesse Keith. He's a new committee member from Kingston. And we did review several sets of minutes, both executive and regular, from the last year and a half. There's been a lot of turnover in the committee. We acknowledged contracts from the superintendent that each committee will bring back. This committee listened to them in executive session tonight, and then there were proposed positions for central office that we all acknowledge the need for them. It's all going to come down to financial sense for all of us, and there's been no vote or movement on that, but that was the gist of the committee meeting tonight. Productive.
Thank you. CTE.
Again, the longest chair pro temp in the history of CTE. I was happy to hear there's potentially some economics classes coming online in our history and social studies department, because one of the things we were trying to do with CTE is bring on board a marketing program, and I can see some synergy there if we ever get around to it. But considering the financial constraints of the district, the CTE subcommittee will not be pushing forward with an additional expansion of CTE with marketing for next year.
Would you like to continue with legislative?
So I am going down to Washington, D.C. on Friday the 30th. And there's a good chance when I land, the government will be shut down again. Which ironically means my meetings are much more likely to happen because nobody will have anything to do. However, I don't expect to bring back any news that makes any of us feel any bit better about the financial situation of federal funding to the state. And through that, when Governor Healy comes out with her budget, which I've already had some leaks about it, it's not going to make any of us feel any better either, right? This really is going to be a year where we have to lean on each other, neighbor to neighbor, local taxpayer to local taxpayer, to fund what we believe in and what we value at the local level, right? So it's a very personal situation this year with the school budget. And again, a budget is a moral document, and you fund what you believe in, right? And we bring that to the ballot box with us. So that's my legislative agent report.
Okay. Negotiations, we were missing Mark tonight, and so I think I'll just echo what Jess said. I think we're making direct progress in our discussions with our paras and our support staff, and we're opening discussions to teaching staff. So we'll look forward to further development. Amy.
Nothing new to report because PAC usually doesn't have a January meeting, and if they did, it would have been tonight. So everything I told you in December is still where we stand.
Okay. Policy.
We have no meeting scheduled.
Okay. Regionalization study.
No updates since December. The meeting's on January 21st.
Okay. Safer.
We haven't had a meeting since our last, and I appreciate everybody's support with the vote tonight for the decision.
Okay. Union 31.
We will be meeting at the end of February to discuss the shared cost contracts.
All right. I believe we are finished then, so I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved. Second?
All right, roll call, Jason?
Yes, please.
Megan?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Mark? Yes. Amy?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Thank you, everybody, for your time and your effort this evening.